Have you ever budgeted how much to spend on food each day, including groceries? Sounds kind of funny, doesn't it? To think about how much it costs to keep your body going each day. Well, most of us are more likely to set a weekly budget for groceries and for eating out, and then maybe have a daily budget just for coffee and snacks and things like that. Well, we can apply that same principle to budgeting our time. Have you ever really worked hard all day for several days in a row, and at the end of the week you still felt like you were behind? It's probably because you were focusing on the details within each day, but maybe you missed the overall view of what had to happen throughout the week. Now, in a previous series, we talked about how to time budget your day. In this video, we're going to take a look at the bigger picture, how to set a weekly time budget. So what we're going to do is take a look at more than just our work time to make sure that we don't let things get out of balance. So let's look at 5 steps to create your weekly time budget. The first step is to set your work days. And what I mean by that is you need to decide which days are for work and which days are for personal time and other things. Now, a typical office schedule is Monday to Friday for work, Saturday and Sunday time off. Unfortunately, some people are expected to do more than that by their employer, some of them much more, such as executives or workers who are on a fixed salary and don't get paid for overtime. But sometimes we place these demands on ourselves, maybe because we're trying to climb the ladder or start a business, or we're just too driven or perfectionistic. What we need is margin. Now, there is a French expression for a line of credit, and it's called marge de crédit. And I find that kind of interesting because it literally means a credit margin. But it's a fake margin because you accumulate debt. So it's really not giving you any breathing room because you have to pay it back with interest. It's a temporary relief. And it's the same with our time. When we push past the hours that we set for work, it's like creating a fake margin. Yes, we get more time temporarily, but really we're robbing something else. That could be our relationships, and we can never get back that quality time we should have spent with people in our lives. It could be hobbies, where we skip the fun and relaxing parts of life, the things that are helping keep us sane and stable. Even worse, it might be sleep. And then we end up with a debt to repay, a sleep deficit. And the interest that we pay on that sleep debt might be our health. Working just a few more hours each day might cause us to get sick, and then we might lose weeks of work, so it's simply not worth it. So I encourage you to decide now which days you're going to work each week and which days you are not going to work. Now, I know someone who's taking what is called progressive retirement. Instead of working 5 days a week, they work 4 days a week one year, and then the next year they took it down to 3 days a week, and so on. So that's kind of an interesting concept. Depending on your season of life, though, you have to do what works for you. And keep in mind, whatever you decide, that we need to respect the principle of margin. We need to make sure that we get adequate rest, adequate time for people, adequate time for ourselves. Step 2 in setting your weekly time budget is to set your work hours. So here you're going to decide on the maximum number of hours you will work each day. And again, you want to apply that principle of margin, not just on a weekly basis, but on a daily basis. It's better to spread your work out as evenly as possible, rather than to work yourself to exhaustion one day and then sleep till noon the next day. There's a lot of power in consistency. You wouldn't take a whole bottle of vitamins the first day of the month, would you? No, you take one a day because it's that progressive strength that it's giving you that adds up and really gives you the energy you need. So once you decide how many hours you're going to work each day, then you have to choose when will those hours be. When will I start? When will I stop? When will I take breaks? And again, consistency is very helpful here. But it depends on your situation. Sometimes you can't control when a meeting's going to happen, for example. But you can control your overall time budget. So if you decide to work 8 hours a day and you have 3 hours of meetings one day, then you could say, I'm only going to work 5 hours besides that. So make a commitment to yourself. I find that setting limits is actually freeing. It frees me up to have the downtime I need when I set a limit for how long I'm going to work. And doing this will help you work more efficiently because you know you have to finish by a certain time because you set your hours and you decided you're not going to work more than a certain number of hours per day. So you have to work more efficiently. You can't afford to get sidetracked. You can't afford to take it slow. You need to keep at it and persevere so that you can finish on time. The third step for setting your weekly time budget is to budget for fixed time expenses. So we're talking about things like meetings, appointments, phone calls, things that happen at a certain time and they take a certain amount of time. So by now you should have a number for the total hours you have available this week to work. And by taking the number of work hours times the number of your work days, you've come up with that number. So now you want to budget for your fixed time expenses. So make a list for this week of your meetings, appointments, phone calls, anything else that is a fixed time expense and how long each is going to take. And then you need to add up the number of hours. Now be sure to include travel time if necessary to a meeting. Also time to find a parking spot, to find an office in a new building, whatever's going to be involved in getting there because you want to be on time. And then for online meetings and for phone calls, you should add in a time buffer before and after because you're going to need a few minutes to gather your notes, gather your thoughts, to log on if it's a Zoom call, for example, and then afterwards to write down your action items and any other notes you need. So the fourth step in creating your weekly time budget is to budget for routine weekly tasks. Now, most of us have reports, accounting, newsletters, or other types of tasks that have to be done once a week or maybe twice a week, for example. So start by making a list of each routine weekly task and how long it normally takes you to do it. And if you can batch similar tasks together, this can end up saving you time because you're not going to lose that time making the mental transition between very different types of tasks. And this is especially true for errands. You don't want to run out and do one errand, come back and do a little work, and then go out and try to do another errand. It's just very distracting and very inefficient. So total the number of hours you need this week for your routine tasks. And if you find that that number just seems to be way too high, it's taking too much of your weekly time budget, then it's time to take a closer look at these routine tasks. So you're going to ask yourself some questions to see how you can reduce the time you're spending on routine tasks. The first question is it something you could eliminate? And the test for this is, would anyone notice if you stopped doing it? So unless it's something that is absolutely required of you, it might be worth asking the question, is this a self-imposed requirement? Is this something I thought I should do and it really doesn't matter that much? If you stop doing it for a week or two and nobody notices, then maybe you want to dig a little deeper and say, is this really necessary? And if it's not something you can eliminate, maybe it's something you can automate. Is there a way to do it faster with software, for example? You could set up auto bill payments and other things like that online. Or is it the type of task that you could create a checklist that you could follow blindly so that you don't have to rethink it every single time you do it? And that saves you both mental energy and time. And if it can't be eliminated or automated, is it something you could delegate? Is there someone else who could do it better than you or faster than you? Would it be worth paying someone else to do it? For example, buying supplies, editing videos, things like that. You see, routine tasks can get kind of boring and suck the joy out of life. And routine is kind of personal. Like, there may be tasks that you find routine and boring that someone else finds energizing and creative. So you need to personalize this. If you can reduce the amount of time that you spend on those routine tasks that you don't find very exciting, it can free you up to do more creative work that aligns with your vision and your mission, and that's much more energizing. The fifth step to setting up your weekly time budget is to calculate the time you have available for projects. What can you realistically accomplish on your projects this week? To find out, you take your total hours available for work this week, you subtract your fixed time expenses, those meetings, appointments, and phone calls, and then you also subtract the time you need for your routine weekly tasks. And the number of hours you have left, that's what you have available for your projects. Now, these could be things that are related to your goals for this quarter. Could also include routine tasks that happen less frequently than once a week, so maybe monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or even once a year. You should also consider including big picture creative work that involves your overall vision and mission. And in a future video, we're going to go into more detail about how to choose and prioritize your projects on a weekly basis. Time budgeting your week helps you to avoid overcommitting and giving unrealistic deadlines, and therefore it can help you to avoid working for too many hours. So we briefly looked at 5 steps to creating your weekly time budget. The first is to set your work days. The second is to set your work hours. The third is to budget for fixed time expenses. And the fourth is to budget for routine weekly tasks. And the fifth, calculate the time available for projects. So I have a question for you. Do you feel like you are spending too much time on routine weekly tasks? Feel free to comment below. Do you feel like you are spending too much time on routine weekly tasks? Now be sure to get your free weekly time budget worksheet by clicking the link below in the comments. And stay tuned for more videos in this series, Time Budgeting 201, where we are digging into each of the various principles for time budgeting our week.